Hello, Yakri here with another Warframe video. This time I want to give kind of an overview of the new Eidolon-themed Warframe Revenant. So, Revenant has a number of decent abilities. I think he's come off a lot better than our last Warframe to come out did right off the bat. Enthrall is a pretty solid CC ability. You can convert an enemy to your side, making them your thrall. Anyway, he does it with a couple little lasery droney things that float around your enthralled enemies, and they convert other enemies into being thralls by attacking them. It's kind of like a much better version of Nyx's Chaos, right? Better, I say better, you might think, oh, well, this doesn't hit a huge area around you, right? Well, I say better because, of course, Nyx's Chaos ability, it just has enemies start fighting each other, right? This is a little more targeted than that, which is, I think, a really nice thing. And there isn't a possibility that the enthralled enemy will attack you. The enthralled enemies are 100% on your side. That's a big bonus. The enthralled enemies leave a disintegration pillar on death, which does a decent amount of damage per second. And then they go out and convert more enemies to your side. So it's a much better CC ability than I think a lot of CC abilities in the game are. Then you've got his number 2. So this is one of the, I think, big sticking points for me in this character, in this Warframe, because it has a number of charges, right? So the charges are hits, okay? You hit once, you lose 1 charge. Now, I'm sure all of you have played Warframe a fair bit. Maybe some of the newer players aren't too experienced with this, but you get hit a lot. It's a horde shooter. There are a ton of enemies, and burning through all the charges is very, very, very easy to do. Now, there's perhaps some ways they could have alleviated this, and I don't think they've done any of the possible options. I think it's really just like, it's not even weak per se, because it is good versus some kinds of enemies. But it's an annoying to use ability that can be a little flaky and feels clunky, and I think that can be fixed. So I really hope they do look into maybe making a couple small changes to him after launch. So Reeve, you dash through enemies as a wall of sentient energy, leeching shields and health from any encountered, enhanced for thralls, right? So it's more powerful than thralls. This ability doesn't seem to work quite correctly. I have some problems with it too. Like, it's a pretty standard dash ability. Which the biggest downside to that is just that it's kind of, you know, not very original. It's kind of boring compared to, say, Enthrall, which is still similar to other abilities, but it's got a little more uniqueness to it than I think the dash does. The other problem I have with it is it seems a little buggy. I've dashed through enemies and not regained any shields before, so that doesn't seem. What is Drain? Okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm an idiot. I think I know why. I don't think that was a bug. Ignore me. Anyhow, it's a okay ability. It does mean that you can combo him a bit with Vitality and Rage, even though he is a shield-based Warframe. Of course, shields are garbage, and you shouldn't actually try and use shields, and DE refuses to make them decent, even though they could. So yeah, I would focus on the fact that you can recover health, even if you don't have much armor. You know, there's always Arcane Guardian, right, if you want to blow a lot of plat on it anyway. He does have one thing going for him, though, in that regard. So, Dance Macabre, it does great damage. Okay, so, damage per second, 2,100. Boosted damage per second, 4,300. So, 4,300 DPS on an AoE ultimate ability is really good. Especially because it adapts to the hopefully the ideal damage type for dealing with enemies, right? So versus Corpus, it's going to deal magnetic damage. Versus Grineer, it's going to deal corrosive damage. And so that in and of itself is really good, because this damage amount is going to be boosted by a lot. Like versus Heavy Gunners, it's going to be boosted by 75%. So I think it's 75% for corrosive, right? Or is it 50%? Either way, it's a pretty substantial buff to the total damage per second of this ability, which is already quite high. The radius and boosted radius, it's not less than 1 meter, so I don't know what the fucking deal is with this. I think it's a bug. Maybe it's 29 meters. They just moved the decimal point in the wrong spot. That would make more sense. So. Yeah, energy use per second is very high. There are some problems with their little details section here, and that it doesn't tell you what the boosted energy drain per second is, and it doesn't tell you that there is a damage reduction component to this ability, and the damage reduction boosts the damage you deal. So unfortunately, he's not a very tanky Warframe, but I suspect if you had like Arcane Guardian, 2 Arcane Guardians, or Arcane Guardian plus whatever the arcane is that whatever the arcane is that I forget what it's called, the arcane that, you know, gives you health regen. If you combine those, it could be pretty effective for you know, recharging your health while you're in that and keeping you from dying too easily. So let's get some. I think heavy gunners are a good way to do this. Butchers, no. Not heavy gunners. Bombards. So bombards are kind of like his strong suit, right? So these are only level 80. Let's simulate up some of these guys. They're going to kind of pound me into the ground pretty quickly, relatively. But Mesmer Skin is going to be pretty effective against these guys because they deal a pretty heavy amount of damage, right? So I'm getting a lot of value, essentially, out of using it. And it should give you an idea of how much damage this really does, how fast it cuts through these guys. I mean, level 80 isn't too super impressive, but even so, you get through them pretty quickly. If you look in the top right corner of my screen, you'll see that there's the damage absorption kicking into effect. And I did eventually die, and that happened. But yeah, I should have died a lot faster than that. Actually, you know what? Let's see. If you look the Mesmer Skin counters right there. So just take a look at that and see it counting down. Let's see how quickly I die to these bombard blasts without whatever weird damage reduction, unknown amount of damage reduction your ultimate gives you. So one more hit. There we go. Oh. Wow. Okay. Now I'll get hit. All right. One shot, two shot. So I'm not sure how many times I got hit before, but it did take me more than 2 shots to die earlier. Someone else who's a little more dedicated than I am, perhaps, can go ahead and try and figure out what the percentage is, or maybe DE will throw us a bone and actually tell us. That would be nice. Let's summon some butchers to test his other abilities a bit. I'm not sure what else to say about this guy, actually, at this stage. I probably have to take some more time to test him out, and I'll show you what mods I have on right now, but of course I've only just leveled him up to 20, and I wanted to record this video immediately. You might be saying, come on, Yakri, he came out yesterday. You could have gotten him much farther. Well, that is kind of true. I've had other stuff to do. Not just video game stuff, I mean, like, actual stuff in real life, but like my job. Anyway, so these guys are, of course, chumps, but we can test out our little mind control capabilities on them. And it's pretty solid. It spreads quickly. They don't deal a ton of damage, but we can go and take a shot and kill most of them, and then this nice pillar of energy will kill more of them, which isn't happening because they all died already, or they're hiding. Come on, guys, jump into my pillar of energy. That would be real nice. Yeah, whatever. Oh, look, there's a pillar of energy now, doing good damage. There we go. That's more like it. And so you have some other benefits, combo type benefits. So dance. Let's see. Thralls killed by this ability leave overshield pickups. So I don't see any overshield pickups, but I keep getting them. As you can see, I have overshields right now. I don't have any way that I should really have overshields. Not sure it doesn't just happen normally. Yeah, so it's a pretty decent ability. I'd say like my overall evaluation of this Warframe is he's not really like a go late and endless missions frame. Exactly, nothing is quite good enough to just like Dance Macabre doesn't really scale. It scales a little bit up until you start getting killed easily, right? And that allows him to like kind of flex upwards to the higher level content. Like you're not gonna go into Sortie 3 and be really sad you brought this guy, but if you do try and do like 2-hour endless survival or something, it's gonna get rough. Yeah, he's self-sufficient-ish with Reeve plus Rage or Hunter's Adrenaline, but there's somewhat of an issue in that he just doesn't have very good base HP. He's meant to be a shield frame, and yeah, so it doesn't work super well. But you know, it's I think overall he's kind of like a mid-power Warframe who isn't broken in a good or bad way. So that's not terrible. I do think that he needs some tweaks to be improved. Mesmer Skin, I don't think the number of charges is really high enough on this ability. For it to work well versus most of the content in the game. I think what would really benefit it is either a higher number of base charges would be a simple fix, or a more complicated way would be to combo it with one of your other abilities. Maybe killing a Thrall should give you another charge, or I don't know, reaving through a bunch of enemies should give you more charges, or blowing up Thralls with your ultimate should give you charges of Mesmer Skin instead of overshields. That would be more useful than overshields. Now, your passive is garbage, like a lot of Warframe passives, but shield depletion smashes nearby enemies with a knockdown shockwave. That's just who cares most of the time? There are still far away enemies probably that will shoot and kill you. So it's kind of useless. A lot of Warframe passives are useless, but not all of them are, and I think this is really something DE needs to work on not doing in the future. Make Warframe passives like some baseline level of useful. Passives like this, passives like Mag's passive, just do not help you in any way, realistically. And a small benefit would be nice, like instead of orb pickup, give Mag base energy regeneration. Just a small amount. Any amount, really. Instead of this guy having the knockdown shockwave, maybe doing something should generate stacks of your little shield ability, right? That gives you instances of damage reduction. That sort of thing. Just small things that do increase the power of the Warframe, because there are Warframes out there, like Ash, for example, who have passives that are actually like beneficial to at least a moderate degree. His is actually quite good, and some other Warframe abilities or passives are a little more middling. And then some are just useless, and I don't think the useless ones are... I think the useless ones are a bad thing, because they don't just... They're a missed opportunity to add something to the Warframe, right? And make them a little more unique. And I don't think, and I think that something that doesn't really affect gameplay can really be said to be a unique aspect of a Warframe, right? It's got to have an effect for it to be meaningful. And I think that's what I'm getting at, yeah. So one last gripe on this guy is his cast animations are really fucking slow. Like, look how long that takes to go off. His ultimate takes quite a ways. There we go. That's the activation point to spin into it. I think the worst one is his damage instance mitigation, right? It's an ability. Let me get like a heavy gunner to help me out here. That's good. I'm actually going to need like 8, actually. What? All right. Let's get about 8 of these guys, simulate them up. Okay. So I need to get this ability stripped off me or die. Oh, I could have just jumped off the edge. Oh, that's kind of dumb with me, right? Okay, so... Come on. Come on. The stun is nice. It takes quite a large number of enemies to strip your stacks off. That's why I picked 8, because I had 7 stacks, so I hopefully wouldn't die to these guys. Okay, so let's go over here. How fast can I get this back up? Boom. Alright, so that takes a while, and even after it clicks in, you're still stuck standing there for a second longer before it really it finishes, right? Now, Rhino. I think Rhino is a little bit of a better example of this ability. So, Iron Skin. How about Iron Skin? Boom. I'd say that's, I don't know, 0.2 seconds faster. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it makes all the difference in the ability, kind of like frustratingly holding you in place, and the ability being nice to use, right? And Rhino can use his while sliding. I shouldn't check if Revenant can use his while sliding. That was dumb with me. Let me give that a little check right now, because that would be a nice thing. I still think it should be at least as fast as Rhino's Iron Skin. I think all abilities like that should be at least that fast. And it'd be neat if some Warframes could do it as like a one-handed action. Oh, of course I can't do it well. Fuck. Of course you do have to jump first. Alright, so let's see here. Okay, yeah, okay, so it's at least that mobile, but it's that... I should probably time it and see exactly how long it is. But yeah, it looks, I think it's a few hundred milliseconds longer than Rhino's Iron Skin, and it just does not feel good. All of his abilities feel a little bit long in terms of animation, and it just feels like if you put natural talent on him, it feels like he's any other Warframe that has like normal ability cast times. So I'm not really a big fan of that. I think if they just like tweaked his cast times a little bit, replaced his passive with something neat, and made his shield ability a little bit... Give it a little bit more oomph, not a lot, just a little bit more sustainability or usability or something. He'd be great. He'd be perfect. I'd say like he just fits a role. He fit a role really well. Then he still wouldn't be overpowered because he doesn't have that like late game scaling that really lets you blow away not just the mid and the early to mid and like sortie 3 level content, but all other content as well. As being generally useful, but he would still be decent as like a nuker frame, a new different variety flavor of nuker frame. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up my feelings on the matter. I like his aesthetic. I've colored him this like smoky silver and tan, And I think you can do some other pretty awesome color schemes. Messed around with it a little bit. I think he goes pretty well with fashion. Had a hard time finding a Sindana that looks good on him. So if you got any suggestions, let me know. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That's all for now. Yakri out.